Good morning. These are 10 questions I wish I had asked before I settled on van life. So, number one is, can you live with the shame? And I know you're thinking, because if you're watching this video, you're interested in van life. So you've watched a lot of these videos of people opening their back door onto the ocean. You've seen these cool Instagram photos. You've been watching the little Volkswagen bus conversions and thinking how cool it would be, or you're looking at building out a full-size van, but you love van life and you think it's romantic and awesome. And which those of us that live in it, most of us still think somewhat along that way. But to a much larger percentage of the population at whole, you are one thing and one thing only. You're scum. You are scum. You are the weight that draws upon society's neck. Okay? You're somebody that has come in to take a thriving community and sap off those resources. Okay? You're out ruining the parks. You're out camping wherever you want, doing whatever you want. A lot of people would think of van lifers as drug dealers or miscreants out causing trouble, doing who knows what out there in those woods. And I will tell you that it can get to you, and it gets to people a lot in this life. And there are communities that have rallied around each other to ban them. And specifically, San Diego County, California, it is illegal to sleep in a vehicle for any amount of time. No Walmart parking lots, no Home Depot parking lots, no side streets, nowhere. It is illegal to sleep anywhere there. They have outlawed van life. And I think that if you have been through parts of Southern California, specifically the Malibu coast, you can see a little bit on their side why they have started to do this. Because in places, van life is overwhelming, and you can tell that there probably is some decent amount of nefarious activity being associated with it. So, depending on where you're at, it's really kind of a mix of whether you're considered in one group or the other. You're either going to be in the group of tourists, who nobody likes tourists, but everybody tolerates them because they bring money and they drive revenue in communities, and so they are seen as a necessary evil. Or you will be seen as transient, in which case you're looked at like homeless people who are to be pitied and assisted, but never really loved. Nobody's ever excited about it. Nobody has ever tried to create a place and say, send your homeless people here. We'd love to have them here. And it can get to people. And it can end up pushing you into more of a tourist, where you end up in more RV parks and more established places like that, as versus wild camping or trying to stealth camp inside cities, which is really what everybody gets into this for, right? I mean, if you just wanted to be an RV guy, you'd be in a 50-foot long Class A motorhome staying at the Twisted Pine RV park down the road with full hookups, and you'd just be having the Blackwater valve open all the time, and you're never having to use that bucket. But that's not really what we got into this for. You need to be able to see yourself as somewhere in between, and I like an idea of sort of regardless of whether people want to see me in the middle, of seeing me in the middle, which is that I do try and be a little bit tourist, and I try and be a little bit transient. So I am coming in and out, I am free camping, but I am trying to support local community, I am trying to use farmers markets, and I do strongly believe in credit card diplomacy. Now, my financial decisions have put me in a place where I can do that, and yours might not have, but the more van life people that participate in communities, show up when there are cleanups or organize your own cleanups to pick up trash and everything else, it all helps to get a better sense of community for van life people and change a little bit of that thinking so that we're not just all scum. Number 2, can you live in confinement? And I know everybody thinks the same thing. When I do van life, I'm not going to spend my time in the van. I'm going to be outside all the time. And you are. You're outside a ton of the time. And it is a great way to be more exposed to Mother Nature and spend more time outside, because it is tough to be cooped up in a van. But if it is pouring rain, if the weather turns really ugly on you, sometimes you don't have a choice but to stay inside that. So if you're living in a house right now and you're thinking van life is great, what you should do, go lock yourself in your bathroom with everything you need, but don't come out of the bathroom. Can you stay in there for 8 hours? Can you find a place? Can you make yourself a little bed in the tub? Can you do your dishes inside the sink, inside your bathroom? And if those bathroom walls start to close in on you, van life might not be for you. And again, this is what ends up pushing some people into bigger and bigger and bigger vans. But the bigger your vehicle is, the harder it's going to be to take it to all those places that you've dreamt of taking it in van life. Getting yourself to focusing on activities that you can do in small spaces, so like getting a Kindle and doing some reading or something else that allow you to sort of burn some of that time in a productive manner that doesn't make you miserable and takes away some of those feelings of confinement. They really go a long way into giving you a longer and healthier van life. Number 3, can you live with less? Van life is not absolutely synonymous with a minimalist lifestyle, but it is functionally a minimalist lifestyle, because it's really hard to have a ton of stuff in a van. Now, I'll tell you that, and then you'll see somebody's rig who's built with just pure storage, and you go in there and it just looks like one huge storage area. It's just bins and totes, and it's like they brought everything that they possibly could in their life. But even then, there's still a lot less space, and there's a lot of prioritization about what you want. And I think that it's a healthy style, but if you get a lot of joy in your life out of decoration and ornamentation and having sort of sacred things with you, mementos and memories and all these things, and you accumulate with it, what you're going to find is that a small van becomes even smaller and smaller and smaller the more stuff that you stack up in there. So I think that if you're considering van life and you really want it to work, in my life, I feel that there's also a need to sort of co-adopt minimalist principles, and there's some great material out there, some great videos on YouTube. Netflix has the Minimalist series on there, which is very good. But I think that although technically you are not forced to adopt those two things at the same time, they are two pieces of the same puzzle that make for a happy and productive life. And if you can get the philosophy of minimalism on board before you start van lifing, and instead of thinking about ways to put more stuff in your van, you're thinking of ways to live with less, you're sort of in the right mindset for a happy van life. So, number 4. And I apologize to any of you who may have delicate sensibilities, but if you're going to live in a van, you're going to have to talk about poo-poo and pee-pee. This is an unfortunate reality of van life, and if you're uncomfortable thinking about this or watching a video on it, really can probably stop watching this and sort of take those van life videos off of there, because one way or another, how you deal with your waste is going to occupy an inordinately large amount of your life force in a van. I don't want it to be that way. It is simply the reality of it. So if you're living in a house, right, let's do an experiment. Right now, I want you to go under your sink, grab that bucket, put a plastic sack in it, and then I want you to put it right there in the middle of your living room and take a big dump in it. And I'll wait while you do that. Okay. Are you done? Okay, so you've taken a crap. Now I want you to tie that up in that bag. You can double tie it. You can put it in another bag. But now I want you to take it outside, and I want you to go to your neighbor's garbage can, and I want you to put that in your neighbor's garbage can. And I know, you're like, this is gross, and you're stupid. But if you're not willing to sort of deal with your waste on a hand basis like this, where it's not your sort of safe spaces, right? I mean, I know people who can't use a bathroom at work or at school. They have to go home and be part of that. So I kind of understand that, and I love my home throne, right? I mean, that's your safe space. But you're not going to have really a safe space like that. Even if you have a small portalette in your van, you're still going to have to deal with it when it gets full. And it's going to be full every couple of days. So especially if there's 2 or 3, if you're thinking if you're taking a kid, you might be dumping it more than once a day. I mean, thought needs to go into this, and you need to be emotionally prepared to deal with these things. So, like I say, the bucket idea, I think that's probably rational, and if you haven't done it yet, and you were like, didn't want to pause the video, still, you should be willing to do it, because things happen. And you end up having to dig holes in the middle of the desert and go out there and go. You end up in horrible public toilets somewhere. You need to be able to have a sense of humor about this. And if you can't laugh at it and sort of laugh at the horrors of dealing with this, you're going to struggle with this, because this is something you're going to be doing on a daily basis, is figuring out where to go. Number 5, can you move constantly? And I know some people are going to say, oh, that's not how I'm going to do van life. I'm just going to live right around my work. And I guess that if you live in a van, you're living van life. But to me, the quintessential part of van life is movement. It's going from one place to another. Whether you're chasing a lifelong dream of traveling and seeing certain places, maybe you're just chasing 70 degrees, which, when it's cold or when it's hot, sound like a really, really good idea. Most of us are moving on a somewhat constant basis, and even if you're kind of staying in the same place, you may find that you are only welcome for some amount of time at each place where you're at. So you could be staying in a relative's driveway or on a back piece of property, but maybe every 2 or 3 months you got to go. Maybe the weather changes and you need to move that way. There is a loss of sort of tradition or comfort in being used to a place and seeing the same things all the time, and waking up in strange places every day or two. If you're traveling that much, which we do. It can lead to a little bit of a sense of disconnectedness from a place, and it becomes somewhat hard to attach. Now, I love that, but I can definitely see in some people that they may tire of that, and that the initial romance of moving from place to place might become a little bit worn, and they just wish that they could stay in one place and get used to it and have friends that they meet at the bar, that when you go to the grocery store you see somebody that that somebody's having a party and you go to it. There are costs of this vagabond lifestyle that we're all choosing to do, and constant movement is definitely one of them. Number 6, can you afford it? The question that is absolutely expected and yet hated and reviled on every van life adventure forum is, how do you afford to do this? It's ubiquitous. This thing happens probably 3 times a day, every day, including Christmas morning. So it's not an easy question. And the other issue is this graph, so I hope you can see this, but this is a timeline of the human life, right? And the green here, this indicates your sort of financial status. So the purple line here is 0, Anything below it signifies debt. Anything above it signifies cash money in the bank. As a kid, you're really a zero-sum game, and most kids, sort of reach college age without having accumulated any debt, but without really probably having accumulated much in savings. So people that immediately go to college accumulate debt. And as they start in their, what I call their planting years, this is the early years of your career, you're sort of working your way out, but then most people buy a house here, and then they really get into debt. And they spend most of their, what I call the harvesting years, working their way out of debt, only finally breaching the surface here somewhere towards the end, reaching over into what I call their golden years, which is the final spend down until they die. Whatever's left goes to the kids. But the issue is, who wants to go into van life? People in their 70s, 80s, they're not van life people. At best, they're an RV crowd or vacation home somewhere. But they're not really the key demographic. Who are all the people that want to go? That's these guys, right? These are the people with probably the most debt out of anyone. So, this is it's this dip right here. First of all, this is what probably drives people to want to go, to somewhat escape this debt trap and knowing that there's this long uphill battle. But it's also the thing that really keeps them from doing it. So, really, van life, versus asking how can you afford to do it, you should be asking how can you avoid putting yourself into a situation where you can't afford to do it. So, obviously, student loans, if you're still happen to be back here and before taking out a bunch of student loans, don't do it. Don't count on Biden to buy you out. Don't count on a rich uncle to pay off your student loans. Do everything that you can to not get this first debt. If you continued this line over here and instead here, you move this whole thing up and you're sort of trending up. Somewhere in here, you reach where you've got enough cash that maybe you can spend 2 or 3 years on the road or go do something fun. Also, the home. A home is where 90% of middle income earners' capital valuation comes from, is their home. But it's all this uphill line where they've been paying it, you pay it off for 30 years. The idea that you can own a home and go on van life, I find to be completely incompatible with each other, unless you were already up here because you inherited some kind of family money. Your home has to go. Now, depending on how far up this line you are, maybe you can sell the home, take a bump up, and have enough to go do that. In fact, that's how I got here. And if you want to see more on that, I'll put a link in the notes to my blog of how I went from debt up to my frickin' neck into getting into van life. But really, for me, the key is, versus asking how you're going to make money on the road, to which there is only one question, or one answer to how am I going to make money on the road, and that's hustling. And everybody that makes money on the road is hustling. If you don't want to make money hustling, it might not be for you. One way or another, whether you're selling videos, hey, don't forget to like and subscribe, or making music, you're pickpocketing, you're trying to sell merchandise, you're making some kind of craftware along the way, or you're trying to pick up odd jobs here or there, you're hustling. It's hustling, it's hand to mouth, it's work that's out of sort of the normal lexicon of what to do. It is possible, but watch out for these debt traps, because they are the number one reason why people could never possibly get into van life. Number 7, do you love showers? Well, then you couldn't possibly choose a worse thing than van life. I have seen shower setups in vans, but no matter what, you can never take a long shower in a van. It's just really physically pretty damn impossible. unless you're at an RV park or you're hooked up to a hose somewhere and your water is draining somewhere that it's not causing you problems, or people at the Walmart parking lot are giving you the look. Showers are cherished items, and the only recompense that I can give you for not getting regular showers is how much you will appreciate a long shower. And when I say love, I mean cherished feelings of deep emotion that almost lead to weeping in a long hot shower when you get the chance to have one. On the road, I think of them longingly, lovingly, and really with stronger feelings of affection than I have for most of my extended family members. So just think about that before you get too far down the van life. Is if you love long showers, either A, you need to be putting some engineering mind into what you want to do there, or B, saving up a lot of tokens so when you stop by the truck stops, you can go in and get one. By the way, not a bad way to get a long hot shower. Number 8, will you miss friends and family? I mean, I kind of talked about this with moving all the time, but I do feel that it does need to be said that if you're doing a trip, and ours was kind of a point A to point B, so we weren't doing like a circle chasing 70 degrees in which you could kind of work out a rotation of maybe seeing friends and family, and maybe that's where you're going to. But there is a loss there, and I have 2 adult children that I love with everything that I am, and I miss the hell out of them when we are not there, and the loss of them, the loss of all of my friends that I don't get to see regularly, it is a weight. It is a weight that has to be borne. There's no way around it. You can't drag the world with you in your van. I mean, we are lucky in that we can Facebook, we can FaceTime, other face things exist, which are nice. And there's more communication possible, and it's faster, phone calls, but it's not exactly the same. And missing birthdays and anniversaries and parties and those things, for me, it's an accumulation. And I don't know that I feel it on a daily basis, but when some big thing comes across, or I sort of get a moment to sit down and reflect, and I'm feeling sad about something else, it can sort of wash over me, and I start to think about all the things that I missed being a part of this van life. And it's hard, and it's not something to be just dismissed out of hand. It's sort of easy to dismiss things that we have had every day and maybe for our whole lives, as thinking that, oh hell, I won't even think about that. But I can tell you that when you're actually gone and when you are out there, you will regret maybe not cherishing some of those obligations that you considered them at the time, and now you see them as opportunities. And so when you come back from a van life trip, the benefit is that I think that there is a heightened sense of appreciation when we do get to spend time with friends and family, to maybe be a little kinder, a little more polite, a little more showing of genuine emotion and appreciation for those people. So it's a cup half empty, cup half full thing, but you should be aware that if you get out there for 6, 8, 10 a year, it may get to you. You should think about it. Number 9, will you miss your work? And I know you're thinking, hell, well, you think I'm looking at van life. Of course I'm not going to miss my work. This is the thing I'm excited about, is escaping this work life. And I have been guilty of that exact same thinking myself. And I have been guilty of getting out there and realizing just how much I was getting from work. Not only a steady income, which of course is important, and the further you get away from having an income source, sort of the more and the less that you realize just how valuable that was. But also, if you got feelings of accomplishment, if you got feelings of pride and self-satisfaction out of your work, out of taking care of other people, regardless of what you do for work, you may not realize it in the uglier moments of it, but you may be getting more from work than you think you are. And you may be getting more from the work relationships than you think you are. So you may actually have some of your better friends that you will miss, like I talked about before, at the office. And, deadlines and ugliness and layoffs and, all sorts of other things can sort of accumulate into a general sense of dissatisfaction with our work. But when it's gone, you may find that you missed it more than you thought you would. And in fact, for myself, I found a real feeling of disconnectedness, and just all of a sudden, all these things that I had really taken a great amount of self-satisfaction and pride in were gone. It took me a long time to wrap my head around that and to sort of fill those gaps with other things. And then, because of COVID, I had the opportunity to come back to work. And again, this is a glass half empty, glass half full. What I found is that it was different for me coming back. And the things that I found as annoying and intolerable before, they were still there, and I don't love that part of it. But I found a lot of the other parts I was able to focus on the accomplishments that I feel, and helping other people, getting other people to better places, and seeing reduction in other people's workplace discontentment. That actually brought me a lot of happiness. And as we get ready to sort of head off on our next adventure, I will admit that much more so than the first couple of times that I abandoned my workplace, I'm less excited about that part of it, and there's a lot less negativity associated with it in my mind, and therefore, I'll miss it. I'll miss it, and I'm excited for the adventure. But again, the perspective of being out there on the road and not having it has helped me really redefine how important it was to me, and how much the people at work meant to me. So, number 10. Do you really want to? So, if you've made it this far into the video, congratulations, first of all, thank you. And but there's a lot of this stuff that is clickbait, right? It's girls in bikini bottoms with surfboards looking out at beautiful beach vistas and their vans there. And it is very easy to program yourself into thinking that van life will solve all of your problems, right? It is an escape from this, that, and this, and I'll get away from all that, and I'll just go to this. Van life is very much like every other kind of life. Your problems do not disintegrate. Relationship problems are not inherently better in a van than they are in other places, and in fact, it can exacerbate problems. Van life will not fix your life. And if you can't be happy in wherever you are and however you're living, it is certainly not for sure that van life will make you even 1 ounce happier. Can van life take a happy life to maybe another level of exploration, of waking up with renewed sense of purpose and increased exposure to nature, better weather, cooler things to see, new people to meet? Horizon, man. I mean, it's amazing, but it won't fix it. And I care about you. And the last thing that I want is for you to abandon a life, cash out all of your chips, and put them into something that doesn't end up making you happier than you are now. If you have all these things, right, that are broken here, they'll be broken on the road. Take the time for yourself. Love yourself. Fix yourself. Then get a van. And then come out there. And I'll see you on the road. Thanks for coming. See you out there.